before there were banks and before paper money and before credit cards or crypto, and that trust was built on gold, silver, and the promise of power. Every empire, from the pharaohs of Egypt to the kings of Europe, rose and fell not just by their armies, but by their currency. Money wasn't just an invention, it was a revolution. It decided who ruled, who obeyed, and who survived. But here's the real question. Where did money actually begin? Who decided that one piece of shiny metal was worth a life's labor? And how did gold and silver, simple elements pulled from the ground, become the foundation of human civilization's most powerful illusion? Welcome to ChronoCapital, where history meets wealth. Today, we journey through the birth of money, from the first gold coins in Mesopotamia to the paper promises of modern banks and the invisible currencies shaping our digital future. This is not just a story about money, it's a story about power, belief, and control. Because to understand money is to understand how humanity learned to trade its faith for fortune. Let's begin where value itself was born. Before money, there was need. A hunter with too much meat, a farmer with too much grain, two people both rich in one thing and then poor in another. So they traded. Not with coins, not with numbers, with trust. This was the barter age, the first version of an economy. But barter was imperfect. What if the farmer didn't need meat? What if the hunter wanted something that couldn't be divided, and like a tool or a home? Humanity needed a universal language of value, something everyone agreed had worth, even if they didn't personally need it. That's when gold entered the story. For thousands of years, it had shimmered in rivers and rocks, admired but useless. It couldn't feed anyone or keep them warm, yet it was beautiful, rare, eternal. And just like that, beauty became value. People began to trade gold and silver, not because they needed it, but because they believed everyone else did. That was the birth of faith-based value. Around 3000 BCE, in the temples of Mesopotamia, priests began using silver rings and gold bars to record debts and payments. They called it shekel, one of the world's first units of value. Merchants no longer needed to barter grain for livestock. They could sell their goods for gold, and gold could buy anything. Humanity had found its ultimate shortcut: money, a symbol, a promise. But with it came temptation. Those who controlled gold began to control people. And soon gold was no longer a tool, it was power. From the temples of Babylon to the pyramids of Egypt, gold became sacred. Pharaohs were buried with it. Warriors died for it. Nations went to war over it. By 1500 BCE, gold was more than metal. It was divine currency. The gods owned it, the kings guarded it, and the people worked their whole lives to earn a glimpse of it. But gold had a problem. It was heavy, hard to divide. So humanity asked another question: how can we make this power easier to move? The answer would shape the next 3,000 years of history, because soon kingdoms would discover something revolutionary: the coin, a small circle of metal stamped with a king's face. Easy to carry, easy to trust, and that simple invention changed everything. Money was no longer just a belief, it was a brand, and the world was about to run on it. That tiny sound, the ring of metal, would echo through centuries. Around 600 BCE, in the ancient kingdom of Lydia, in what is now modern-day Turkey, humanity made one of its greatest inventions: the coin. The Lydians were traders, smart, ambitious, and obsessed with innovation. They discovered that if you stamped gold or silver with the king's seal, people would instantly trust it. A coin was not just metal anymore, it was a royal promise. From that single idea, a new world was born. Coins spread like wildfire from Greece to Persia, from Egypt to Rome. Wherever coins appeared, civilization grew faster, trade became smoother, armies got richer, empires got stronger. And soon the world realized something incredible: whoever controlled the mint controlled the market. In Rome, coins became a symbol of loyalty and propaganda. Each coin carried the emperor's face, stamped with divine authority. Every time you paid for bread, you saw his image. Every time you bought land, you touched his power. Money had become a language, and every coin was a message. The empire is eternal, but there was a problem. Gold and silver were limited. Empires grew faster than their minds could supply. So rulers began to cheat. They mixed gold with cheaper metals, copper, tin, even lead. The coins looked the same, but their value was hollow. And when people discovered the truth, faith collapsed. Rome's economy crumbled. Inflation soared. Prices rose. Trust vanished. The empire that once ruled the world couldn't pay its soldiers anymore. History, it seems, loves to repeat itself. After Rome's fall, Europe entered chaos. Kingdoms rose and fell, each minting their own coins, each claiming that their gold was the real gold. But trade demanded something universal again, something beyond borders, beyond kings. And that's when gold set sail. From Venice to China, merchants carried coins across continents. Silver from Spanish mines crossed the Atlantic. Gold from Africa poured into Europe. And the Silk Road became not just a highway for spices, but for money itself. By the 1500s, money was global. A single piece of silver could travel from the New World to Asia, passing through dozens of hands, each adding a story, each adding value. But as trade expanded, so did greed. Monarchs began to hoard gold. Wars were fought not over land, but over treasure. The phrase "worth its weight in gold" became painfully real. The pursuit of gold built empires and destroyed them. Spain conquered half the world for it. Britain built its navy on it, and countless civilizations bled for it. Humanity had chained itself to its own creation. Gold was no longer a symbol of value. It was value. But soon gold would meet its greatest rival, something lighter, easier to carry, and far more dangerous: paper. In China, around the 7th century, merchants began using paper notes, written promises to pay gold later. It was brilliant, convenient, revolutionary. revolutionary, but it also asked a dangerous question. If everyone believes the paper, do we still need the gold? The world was about to find out. Paper, light as air, fragile as faith, yet it changed everything. In 7th century China, under the Tang dynasty, traders carried gold along dangerous roads. Bandits struck, merchants vanished. Gold was wealth, but gold was also a target, so they found a solution: paper money, a written promise. This note equals this much gold. Lighter, safer, faster, and it worked. By the time of Kublai Khan, the Mongol emperor demanded that everyone use paper currency. He declared, "Those who refuse shall die." The world's first fiat system was born. Money that had no gold behind it, only the power of law. Europe would take centuries to catch up, but when it did, the transformation was unstoppable. In 17th century England, merchants and bankers began issuing banknotes, private promises of payment, signed and sealed. And from that idea came the Bank of England, the blueprint for every modern central bank today. The note in your hand no longer held value, it represented value, a small piece of paper, backed by trust in a system. For the first time in history, faith itself became currency. As trade grew, nations raced to control global finance. Gold became the world's anchor. Every paper note promised redemption in gold. But in the 20th century, that promise broke. In 1971, President Richard Nixon made a single announcement that would rewrite financial history. The United States will suspend the convertibility of the dollar into gold. Just like that, the gold standard ended. The dollar was no longer tied to anything physical. Money became an idea. From that day forward, value existed only because we believed it did. And belief proved powerful. Credit cards, online banking, digital markets, invisible money moving faster than any coin ever could. Today, 92% of the world's money doesn't exist in physical form. It's just numbers, signals flowing through servers coded in ones and zeros. The same faith that once built temples for gold now builds data centers for crypto. Bitcoin, Ethereum, stablecoins. The new age of currency isn't forged in fire, it's mined in code. We have come full circle, from barter to belief, from gold to algorithms. But here's the haunting truth. No matter how advanced money becomes, its foundation remains the same. Trust. Without trust, a gold coin is just metal. A paper note is just fiber, and digital code is just light. The real power of money was never in gold or paper. It was always in us. From caves to cities, from empires to economies. Every generation rewrote what money means, but never why it matters. Because the story of money is the story of humanity itself. Our greed, our ambition, our faith, and our survival. This is ChronoCapital, where history meets wealth, and the next chapter is still being written. Subscribe for more stories where history shapes wealth.